We'll start the meeting with prayer. Linda's on her way up. Please have your seats. Thank you.
Good evening. Would you please rise and bow your head? Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless all of us at this meeting. Lord, this country needs your help and guidance. Please let us know what we can do to make the country great again. Please bless President Trump and help him rein in his ornery comments and keep his messages helpful. We also ask you to keep our military folks that are away from home safe and give them the strength they need to keep our liberties safe. Father, we ask for your help keeping our fight going, as we know this is some of our only chance to make a difference. Please give us some help so that we may continue this fight. And finally, Lord, thank you for all you've given us. Thank you for your blessings and the guidance we have received from you. We want to move forward, and with your help, we will. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may have your seat.
Thank you, Linda. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. We have a packed agenda, so I'm going to go through VCP business rather quickly. First, we're still looking for some locations that we could put out 4x8 signs or smaller to promote the Berks County Patriots. If you have a spot on your property that we could put a sign, please let us know, or you know someone who you can give us their name and so forth that we can contact them. We certainly would appreciate that. Actually, see Linda on that if you would. You can also purchase 50/50 raffle tickets. We will be doing the raffle at the end of the program. Now, we also have gun raffle tickets. How many gun raffle tickets do we have left? And Paul, Judy? 20. Okay, folks, we have 20 tickets left, so maybe we'll go tonight and we can have the raffle ticket tonight. Raffle itself is tonight. You actually can win a Ruger American 9mm 17 round mag. Also, you have your choice of either that or a weapon of your choice, equivalent in value, or $400 cash, and they're only $10. Now, folks, we do these raffles so we can offset some of our costs. Our revenue, our total revenue, comes from whatever happens at these meetings, plus some spotty other contributions. So we appreciate anything that you do with the tickets or contributions, so thank you very much. Also, in March, Attorney Simon Grill was here. He gave a fantastic presentation. Actually, it was a preview presentation on the Castle Doctrine, Stand Your Ground, and the classic self-defense. Many of you were so impressed, you asked if he would be able to do the full presentation. We did speak to Simon. He has agreed to do so, which I told you last week. However, the date changed. It was scheduled for September 7th. It is now September 14th. 1 month later, it's still on a Saturday. It's 9 to 12 at Whitewood Restaurant, and it's a small fee of $10, which also includes coffee and donuts. Now, folks, you do not have to own a weapon to go to this. Everyone should know your rights and responsibilities in case something would occur, whether it be with a rifle, a gun, a knife, maybe a frying pan, or you could be at the mall, you could be at home, no matter what. You should know what your rights are. So we appreciate if some of you that may not have firearms to come and join us as well. Now, Linda and I saw this presentation. I'll tell you, folks, it is fantastic. Not only is it very informative, but it's very entertaining. You may not want to be in the front row. Simon, I think, really wants to be an actor on stage. He is great. He gets his message across in a very entertaining way. So I hope you join us. You'll see Judy in the back, or anyone in the back should be able to help you. Let's see, next. Representative Aaron Bernstein has sponsored a constitutional carry legislation bill. It's HB 1412 in the PA General Assembly. With this bill, if it passes, you will no longer need to have a permit for concealed carry. And folks, isn't that how it should be for all law-abiding citizens? Well, folks, we hope to get this passed. What I appreciate you do is to contact your legislators. By the way, I looked at who was on the list sponsoring it, and the only one, this maybe a week or so ago, was Dave Maloney. I'm not sure where the rest of Berks County is, so I appreciate all of you. Contact the other people from Berks County. Those of you that don't live in Berks County, same situation there, contact your people. Now, they're not in session right now. You can still call, you can still leave the information, they'll still chart it, and then back in September, we'll also remind you, if you do it again. Okay, next, I want to give you a quick update on school property tax elimination. Matter of fact, I just got this on Tuesday. Most of you are familiar with SB 76. That's been around for a couple of years. We've done everything we could to probably get that passed. It is unlikely that that bill will pass. The school property taxes have increased every year, and the amount of funds that are needed to make a total switch, to eliminate those and bring in the TI tax as well as the sale tax is just too high. So that is not most likely going to pass. However, powers that be, about a year ago, realized this and started working on another bill. It's HB 13. HB 13 is spearheaded by Representative Frank Ryan, who's been here many times. Folks, this bill is totally different than SB 76. I don't have details of nothing I can tell you right now. I will tell you that Frank Ryan has been spending a lot of time on this. Also, he's working with other people, two of them being Jim Rodkey, who is the chairman at the 11-9-12 group, and that's where we were on Tuesday speaking with him, and he gave us most of this information. Also, Ron Berks, who's the president of the Pennsylvania Liberty Alliance. I spoke with Ron last week. I will tell you that this bill has many moving parts. We will do our best at some later time to explain the bill itself. The plan is to get this bill passed in the House this year and in the Senate next year. Governor is another matter. We'll cross that bridge once we get the first two taken care of. Also, there is a meeting on school property tax elimination that Senator Argo is having. It's in York, and I believe it's August 12th, if anyone has an interest in that. As I said, we will give you more information once we get it. I put something together very quickly. There's been much in the news regarding the 2020 census, particularly the question, is this person a citizen of the United States? I'd like to give you some things to think about. The Emancipation Clause, better known as the Census Clause in the Constitution, basically states that an actual census shall be taken every 10 years. It has always been understood that the census should not only count every citizen, but every resident, including non-residents who live in the country, whether or not they entered legally. A question on citizenship in one form or another was asked in every census from 1820 to 2010, when President Obama broke the 190-year-old practice and stopped asking the question. Therefore, in my opinion, which does not matter, but more importantly, based on past history, all people living within the borders of the United States should be counted. And the question, is this person a citizen of the United States, should be included in the census. Additionally, the Constitution states that the reason for the census is to determine how the 435 representatives will be apportioned throughout the United States. To be eligible to vote for a representative in federal elections, you must be a U.S. citizen. Folks, since it's only U.S. citizens that can vote for a representative, therefore it makes sense that only U.S. citizens should be extracted from the census to be used to determine representation. Not people visiting our country, not foreign students, not those on work visas, and not those in our country illegally. But this is a quick overview. There are many rabbit holes and consequences by not doing, as stated, including the unfair allocation of your well-earned and paid taxes. A little later, Rod is going to add to that, I believe. One other thing I want to mention, Lehigh Valley commentator. Otto's here. He comes here, tries to make every meeting. We appreciate if you guys would pick these up, read these articles, a lot of stuff in here. If you have something that you would like to write, get it in here. It's a quarterly publication. He also has a daily e-paper as well. And Otto is a true patriot. He did everything he could to get to our meeting last month. He wound up going through a couple, that's when we had the heavy rain, by the way. He wound up going through a couple rivers that were crossing the highways. The second one, he didn't quite make it. He wound up getting flooded out for a while. He was able to limp home, has a costly bill. I told him not to send it to us, though. But he is here tonight. Please, folks, make sure to pick up Lehigh Valley Commentator. Also, I know he's not going to be here very long. I just want to acknowledge Sheriff Wignack. Sheriff Wignack, where are you? Are you still here? Back in the corner over there. Sheriff Wignack, say hi. Thank you. Is there anybody else running for public office that is here this evening? No? Okay, then that is going to conclude my remarks. Now you're going to get to the happy moment. We're going to bring Sally Greffelby up. Come on, Sally.
Okay, this happy moment is the moment that made me realize we needed to do this at this meeting. I found this. We were emptying out an abandoned home, and I found this. The box was going to get thrown away, and I said, I got to go through this box. This is a letter written by a German woman. It was written, the first part was written August 19th, 1945. The second part was written August 22nd, 1945. Everybody knows what that means? It was the end of the war, and it's in German. Well, I can figure out the date, and I can figure out it came from Munich, but that was all I could figure out. So I sent it to my friend who's German, in Utah, and she sent it back to me. And this is what the letter says. This is from the lady in Munich. My dear John, today I will write to you the promised letter. Today is a rainy day. 8 days ago, we both walked nicely in Europe. I really have great longing for Europe. I liked it there, better than here in Munich. My mother is naturally happy that I am finally here with the children. I have told my mother a lot about you, that you, dear John, have been very good to me. For that, I want to thank you with all my heart. Dear John, I would be so happy if you would visit me in Munich for today. I greet and kiss you heartily, your Alice. The second letter reads, Dear John, just now Miss Annie brought your dear letter. I was happy to hear from you so quickly, but sadly she said you will have to leave Erie. Hopefully I will see you one more time. My dear John, again, many greetings and kisses, your Else. Now, I have other boxes. I'm going to go through them. We're going to call this man G.I. John. I do know his last name, but to respect the privacy, I'm not going to issue that. So as I research, hopefully I will find more out about this man, and maybe we can find out if they ever kept in touch. So the other thing I have is, anybody interested in attending Wounded Warrior Project fundraiser, it's here on October 4th. There are papers in the back. The tickets are $10 like last year. Includes all the food and sodas, and also puts you in the raffle to win money. You do not have to be at the event to win the money. If you need tickets, you can see me, or there's numbers on this paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Up next is a legislative chairman, Rod Miller. He's going to give some other comments regarding the 2020 census. Here's Rod.
He surprised me with this. I didn't expect this was to be part of the agenda, but he probably read my letter to the editor because he covers some of it. How many here do not get the Reading Eagle? Okay. Those that get the Reading Eagle, you might have heard this or read about it before, but I was asked to read it. But the Reading Eagle editorials, I have issue with many of them, but the one editorial a week or two ago, it forced me to respond to it. So I wrote a letter back to the editor, Adam Rigger, and I'll just read it. It's entitled, "Census Should Note Number of Non-Citizens." Adam Rigger, July 6th column, rightly points out that an accurate census determines where federal funding goes. His article focused on the issue of whether a citizenship census question needs to be included. He wrote that a citizenship question will only serve to discourage minorities and immigrants from responding to the census. He also noted that the president was considering an executive order to alter that and to add that question. Rigger's statement discredits his logic and shows exactly how the people on the left compromise their credibility. When expressing their views, the operative word is illegal. Minorities and immigrants have nothing to do with the issue. Identifying illegal immigrants eliminates the guesswork in determining how many illegal immigrants there are and where they're located. Assimilating illegal immigrants with the citizens' population is not only a disservice to the census. California governor declared it's a sanctuary state. With California's tremendous population of illegal immigrants, a head count that does not identify non-citizens will give the state an increased federal subsidy, and it is already a large congressional delegation, and that will increase disproportionately. That's exactly what the Constitution was designed to avoid. While it appears the political left will succeed in keeping the citizenship question off the census, the president can and may propose an alternative non-citizen question as an executive order. Now, I've sort of watched this a little bit. I know that he made a statement that his staff or his cabinet and everybody else, he wants them to look into this to see what can be done. Wild guesses have it as high as 30 million people, but as it will go, they can at least count every non-citizen that's here legally. They are registered. They're green carders, they're legal immigrants or whatever. The balance are the illegals. I'm not exactly sure how he's going to pull it off, but I certainly want to know how many illegals, particularly when you look at California. They initially started with sanctuary cities, not a sanctuary state, and they all flocked to California. Well, when that head count, as Sam pointed out, when that head count is made, there's an awful lot of people that are going to be in that head count. And California, as far left as it is politically, they'll accumulate more congressmen in Washington, which diminishes the amount of congressmen we have in Pennsylvania, which I think it was 21, we're down to 19. So the impact that citizens have, voters have, is going to start to diminish proportionally by them not counting illegals. I know what they're after. I had a photograph on my internet. I'm not saying it's fact. I didn't verify it, but it shows a line of people in California lining up to register to vote as illegal citizens. That's their goal, I'm sure. They've lost a lot of the population. They lost middle America, senior citizens, whatever. The only thing they can hang on to anymore is recent college graduates and millennials that are going to get their tuition paid, and others that are going to get their free Medicare, and now illegals are going to get it. That's the segment they have working for them, and the only thing they can do to expand that base is make illegals part of their base. So that's where we are, folks. I'm staying on as your legislative chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. We certainly hope that somehow or other, either through the courts or executive order, that we do get everyone in the United States counted. The question is on the ballot, and we can separate those who are allowed to vote legally. Folks, we're now raining. I don't know if anyone has their car windows up or down at all. I think, Paul, what do you say? Someone might have had their car window? Okay. Blue what?
Blue Focus or something with Penn State on it.
Blue, Penn State on it, anybody?
In the handicap spot.
In the handicap spot? Okay. So when you go out and you get a wet butt, we warned you ahead of time, okay? Okay, folks, up next is one of our very own, Carol Gardecki. She is a true patriot. She had a procedure done today, and she is here. Let's all welcome Carol Gardecki.
Thanks, Sam. The little white van proves I was in the hospital this morning. Had to be there at 6 o'clock. Got home at 10 o'clock. They did their little procedure. They went down my throat with, took pictures of my heart from inside my stomach. I don't know how they do that, but they did. Anyway, so if I mess up, I can blame it on the anesthesia, right? Okay. I've been asked to talk about the Northwest Ordinance once again. A couple of weeks ago when I talked, a couple months ago, I told you about the 4 founding documents being the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, and the Northwest Ordinance. And at least one of the places where I checked, they said the Northwest Ordinance is second in importance only to the Declaration of Independence. But we never hear about it. I have told you before that I was not a good history student when I was in school. And so I didn't learn about the Northwest Ordinance until, I don't know, about 10 years ago when I started reading history because I came to the Berks County Patriots and studied the Constitution, and so now I'm all in. They turned me around. I was always proud of my country, always loved my country, just didn't know the history very well. So now I know it a little better. Now, the Northwest Ordinance did a couple of things. When we stopped the revolution and they signed the Treaty of Paris, one of the things that happened as a result of that is we got, I already don't know the number, something like 500,000 square miles. We got a lot of square miles. It was the territory north of the Ohio River, west of the Appalachian Mountains, east of the Mississippi River, up to the Great Lakes. That was the area covered by the Northwest Ordinance. And that was one of the things that England turned over to us, this extra piece of land, in addition to our 13 colonies. Now, one thing that was going on was, I'm going to cut away to the term manifest destiny. I'm sure you've heard that term. Manifest destiny has two meanings. One of those meanings we have fulfilled beautifully. The one meaning was that our forefathers believed that it was our destiny to have our country go from sea to shining sea. We have done that. We have expanded from sea to shining sea. The other meaning for manifest destiny, we have not done so well with. The other meaning was they believed that we were supposed to be an example to the world. And the world was supposed to hold us in such esteem that they would try to copy our government in their countries. I kind of have a theory why that didn't happen. I think instead of trying to make their countries emulate us, the people that cared left their countries and came here. So instead of trying to change their governments, they just came and joined ours. And so we didn't do so good with the second part of the manifest destiny. Anyway, way back when we only had 13 colonies, most of those colonies thought that their land went on forever to the west. We were kind of hemmed in by the Appalachian Mountains and all that, and nobody really tried to, while the British still had us, we didn't try to expand beyond that. But the states thought that their land would go on and on to the west. And when we got this large territory, the government had to try to convince them otherwise. They did eventually convince them otherwise. Virginia was one of the first states to say, okay, we'll cede our land west of the Appalachians to the federal government. And so because Virginia did that, and they were our largest state, the other states followed suit and agreed that that land west of the Appalachians did belong to the federal government. So the federal government decided that that land was going to be some new states. And the thing that the Northwest Ordinance did, that the Constitution did not. The Constitution didn't say how we were going to get new states. What procedure were we going to follow? And the Northwest Ordinance did that. So what they did was, they sent a governor to these western lands. They sent a secretary, and they sent 3 judges. Any 2 judges at any time could hold court. They needed at least 2 of the 3 to hold court. They didn't want this to be just a helter-skelter thing. They wanted there to be some organization. And so that's what they did. Eventually, when they got to have 5,000 citizens, they were in a given district, they were allowed to start their own legislature. And they could have one representative for every 500 people. So they would have their own legislature and they would start to make their own laws. Now, the governor that was sent there by the federal government had veto power. If they made some law that he didn't think was such a good idea, he could veto it. I have not read whether a lot of this vetoing went on or not. I just know that was the procedure. Once a district had 60,000 people, their legislature could write their own constitution, the state constitution, and then they could apply to the federal government to become a state. The Northwest Ordinance said that once you became a state, you were immediately equal to the original 13. They didn't have any second place membership. They were immediately equal to the others. And that's what they have done ever since. They haven't followed the Northwest Ordinance for our whole 243 years, but they have followed that rule. When a new state comes in, it's immediately equal to all the others. It has voters apportioned by their population, and it has senators, and it gets to vote like everybody else, and nobody thinks their vote's any less than the vote of the original. Another thing the Northwest Ordinance did, it set up rules for what would happen to your property if you died without a will. First of all, when this land was first settled, people never wrote wills. There was nothing like a will. We came from England, the first people did. And in England, they had a thing called primogeniture. Primogeniture just meant that when the husband or the father in the family dies, the oldest son gets everything. No ifs, ands, or buts. That was how it went. If there was no oldest son, the oldest male relative, which could have been an uncle, a brother-in-law, whoever happens to be next in line. Well, that didn't work out so good sometimes. Sometimes, as you may be able to recall in your own experience, you know families where the oldest son maybe wouldn't be such a good choice, maybe isn't the smartest person, maybe isn't the most responsible person, and that's what often happened. Often happened, the oldest son got the money, and if his mom had 5 or 6 other kids, he took the money and went off and did what he wanted and left her penniless. So they didn't like that. So they started to have people write wills. And if you didn't write a will, they made rules for how your money would get distributed. I hope you all know that your state today has such rules. If you don't have a will and you die, the state will dictate how your money gets spread around and who it gets spread around to. So there are rules even today, it's government rules, about what happens to your estate if you don't have a will. If you don't like that and you don't have a will, go do it. Go get yourself a will. Okay, another thing, there were 2 Northwest ordinances before the one that we always talk about. The one we talk about was in 1787. They tried to have one in 1784, and they tried to have one in 1785. And though neither of them really ever got off the ground, they did do some things. They set up a rule for dividing up our territory. They sent surveyors out and they divided it up into townships. And a township was 6 miles square. In other words, 6 miles by 6 miles. And out of that township, one plot, 1 mile by 1 mile, had to be held for a school. In every township, they had to keep a piece of land for a school. And they said that schools should teach, in this order, religion, morality, and knowledge. So don't let people tell you that our forefathers were not religious. They were very religious, very religious. They thought religion was one of the first things that needed to be taught. And following that, morality, and then knowledge. They also set the rivers and tributaries. They said that they had to be free for everybody to use. They didn't want anybody keeping you from taking your boat and going down the river. If you wanted to take your goods to the market by going down the river, they wanted that to be free for everybody. They put that right in the Northwest Ordinance. That was another thing that they had in there. The Indians were to be treated well. There were some Indian lands, and they were not supposed to be divided up into townships. They weren't supposed to be surveyed. If they got to Indian lands, they were supposed to let them alone. The Indians weren't very cooperative. The people were supposed to be nice to the Indians, but the Indians weren't always nice to the settlers. And they would kill people. And over the years, they killed as many as 800 settlers, a couple here, a couple there, until finally, during the time that George Washington was president, he finally sent an army to put them down, put the Indians down, and it was called the Battle of Fallen Timbers. I never heard of that until I researched this little talk tonight. The Battle of Fallen Timbers. That was where they fought the Indians about this poaching on the settlers that they were doing. And so that seemed to have settled it then. Later on, if you want to stop back at my table, you can't see it from here, but in the research I did, I've got some great maps that show the Northwest Territory. They're really good. So if you want to stop and just take a look at what I have, you might find it interesting. The first state that was formed out of the Northwest Territory was Ohio. Now there were 2 states not in the Northwest Territory that were formed before Ohio. And they were Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee and Kentucky were formed from the western parts of 2 other states. I forget which ones. But anyway, that's how they got in, and still were not part of the Northwest Territory. And also, Vermont. Vermont came in. But Vermont wasn't really west. It was originally New Hampshire, and somehow or another they decided to split New Hampshire up into New Hampshire and Vermont. So Vermont came in before. So those 3 states came in before Ohio, but Ohio was the first one made out of the Northwest Territory. And one of the earliest things that they did was start a university. And they had a University of Ohio, and I forget. They graduated 2 people, I think in 1809. I think that's when they graduated 2 people. first two that graduated from Ohio University. So not only were they having schools for the young people, they were having colleges. Okay, I can tell you, after the original colony, 13 colonies, number 14 was Vermont, which I mentioned, 15 was Kentucky, 16 was Tennessee, and 17 was Ohio. And then it took a while till another one came in, but Indiana was next. But then they went other places before they got other states in. So eventually, they were supposed to form not less than 3 states and not more than 5 out of that territory. And they did form, I'm going to say 4 and a piece of 1. They formed the states of Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and about a third of Wisconsin. That's what came out of the Northwest Territory. So, the Northwest Territory did a great service. It set up a method for new states to come in. It kept law and order in the district. Tried to do things reasonably. In my reading, I found out, and I guess if you never heard this, you surmised it. The United States is the only country ever in the world to be formed immediately of a certain amount of territory as a sovereign country. The only one that was not formed by a war, by taking over some other person's territory and setting up a country. The only country ever so formed. I have been reading a book, which is available from the National Constitution Center. It's called The Real George Washington. I know that we have heard how George Washington and his troops suffered. I have never, since I read that book, I cannot imagine the suffering that they had to put up with, the lack of supplies. It had to be in God's hands that they won. They had nothing. Sometimes they didn't have tents even to sleep in. They didn't have shoes for their feet. Sometimes the soldiers didn't even have pants to wear. In the middle of winter, we complain if it's too cold while we have to blow snow for an hour. And they lived in this bitter, bitter cold with hardly any supplies. That was because the Articles of Confederation didn't do a good job. They couldn't get the states to cough up some money. They could ask them for money, but it didn't have any force behind it. They couldn't make anybody pay. And so Washington really suffered. It's a miracle, a real miracle that he made good on the war, that he actually won it. Does somebody have a question? Anybody have a question? If I know.
That book you just said was The Real George Washington?
Yes. They have, National Constitution Center has 3 books. The Real George Washington, The Real Thomas Jefferson, and The Real Benjamin Franklin. All 3 are excellent. The Thomas Jefferson one is fantastic. And I am in awe of that man. He is a genius. He is the smartest person I have ever heard of. Washington wasn't a really a bright person like Jefferson, but he loved his country, and he was very tenacious. If he was given a job, he didn't give up. He stuck to the job till he did the job. And he was also very honest. When the war was over, his troops wanted to make him king. Now just think of it. If you were the general and your troops came and the war's over and you won, you can feel pretty good about yourself. And your troops come and say, we want to make you king. I wonder how many people could resist that. It'd be a pretty neat thing if they're going to make me king now. But he didn't do that. He said, I don't want to be king. He resigned his commission in the army, and he went home to his house, to his farm. All he ever wanted to do was farm, and he kept getting called away to do things for his country. As a very, very honest man, just wouldn't do it, wouldn't be corrupted. So you have to really admire somebody like that. But as I read that book, I'm even more impressed than I ever was before. Okay? So, if you want to come look at my papers, I'll have them back there at my table.
Thank you very much, Carol. Very interesting. Second time I heard part of it, still very interesting. Thank you very much. Folks, up next is Scott Miller. Scott? Scott's been here before, folks. He's a crowd favorite. His 9 years of traveling the country has made him the most qualified conservative man on the street. His experiences have led to captivating presentations on American exceptionalism. Miller will touch on the phenomenon that is Donald Trump. Folks, let's all welcome Scott Miller.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me back. If I don't say this right away, I'm going to forget. The first thing I want to do is just thank all of our servicemen and women that are here tonight. America is as free as we are because our best people have always gravitated towards the military. One way or another, that's where they've ended up. And that's why we maintain this freedom that we have and enjoy. And from the bottom of my heart and from my entire family, thank you for everybody that has served our country. I've got to be honest, I'm going to be a little bit all over the place tonight for a few different reasons. For one thing, I've had the good fortune of speaking to 3 or 4 different groups over the last month and a half, and several have been in this area, so I know some people have heard a little bit of what I've had to say already. Also, things got a little crazy lately, and it seems to me that we need to talk about a few different things that maybe I hadn't thought to talk about over the last month or two. I want to start off by answering 2 questions and 1 answer. For one thing, when I have called different groups and asked them if I could come speak with their group, they almost always ask, what makes you qualified to speak on American exceptionalism, or on what President Trump needs from us? And then when I walked in, my good friend Judy back there asked me what I've been doing since I saw her in the beginning of June when I spoke with the Republican Women's Club. And I just wanted to give you guys a quick list. I know I'm missing some things, but in my opinion, this answers both questions. So since I saw Judy in the beginning of June, I've been at the Middleburg Street Fair, the Bel Air Republican Club, the Kutztown Flea Market, the Loveland Freedom Festival in Loveland, Ohio, Shipshewana Flea Market up there in Shipshewana, Indiana, which is a beautiful part of the world if you've never been there. The Leesport Market right out here. Carmel Fest up in Carmel, Indiana for the 4th of July. The Milton Flea Market, the Lewisburg Flea Market, the Berks County Republican Women, which I spoke with her at. We're currently set up at the Lycoming County Fair. I had a really good friend of mine watch the booth for the night. The Rogers Flea Market over in Ohio. Patriots Cove had a very big festival that benefited Patriots and giving them the opportunity to hunt and fish. The First County had a big Trump watch party that I think Clay had invited me out to. What qualifies me is that as I'm at each of these places, I get to speak with great Americans. And it really allows me to find out what other people are thinking, and I can bounce ideas off of them and learn from them. And then these experiences, in the past I've come to you and spoken to you about experiences. If you remember, I've spoken to you about Elvis tribute artists that go out of their way to totally honor our military and our veterans. I've spoken to you about a community in Iowa that came together and 519 people got their heads shaved in a 1-hour period to break a record in the Guinness Book of World Records and to raise money for a boy who really needed medical help. I've spoken to you about a family I met in Tennessee who always gets together every year, meets up, and ends up having a potluck dinner at this one big, long yard sale where the whole family meets up and then sings these great gospel patriotic tunes, just like a beautiful, beautiful medley of things. And I've been fortunate to show you pictures, and when the media, when the sound system was working, play some of the videos for you. But this time it's a little different. I think there's a lot at stake for our country right now. So what I wanted to do was kind of give you guys an idea what I think President Trump needs from each of us. And I think the best way to do this is to kind of start off by reminding everybody how we got here. And I felt even like this, when it came back to the election in 2016, again, not tooting my own horn, but I felt more qualified than anybody else to have an opinion on these matters. You see, in the fall, the summer and fall leading up to 2016, when they were having the presidential primary race from Republicans, everywhere I went to, on my table, I had a little box, and it said, fair poll, who will you vote for in the presidential primary this year? And I had a little piece of paper, no names on the paper, you could write down whoever you wanted on that paper. Now, we were in 14 different states that summer. I had a couple friends that were selling my shirts also. So if you're going to do this, I wanted to catch a name for it. So what do we call it? The Fair Poll. And in 14 states, more than 2,900 people voted. And I got to speak with an awful lot of these people. And when they voted, President Trump won all 14 of those states. Now, again, you guys saw this. You guys gradually started seeing a groundswell of this coming, and when nobody else believed it could happen, it happened. And the reason that it happened was the same reason why second was Ted Cruz and third was Dr. Ben Carson, because people were tired of politics as usual. So now, we fast forward a couple years, President Trump wins the election, which nobody in the media especially thought was going to happen. And he's against all of these forces. Even, obviously, the Democrats, but you got the media completely against him. You even have people within his own party against him. And I've had people bring up, well, if Ted Cruz had gotten in, if Rand Paul had gotten in, if Huckabee had gotten in, any of them had gotten in, they would have received a lot of blowback also because they're conservatives, because they're Republicans. And the truth of it is, yes, they would have. But they would have backed down by now. And President Trump won't back down. Now, if you really took a secret survey of this room, the people's level of how much they back or love or would fight for Donald Trump in this room would actually vary. I'd like to think if there was an election today and this was a balloting place, I think he'd probably have just about every vote in this room. But that doesn't mean that everybody in here steps forward to that voting booth with the same feelings and the same emotions. The people in this room, if you really took a survey, there are people that live, die on every word he says, and whatever he says, they will back it up and fight to tooth and nail for it. There are other people that cringe at a lot of the things that he says, but will vote for him because they know the ideas are right. There are other people that might cringe, might still vote for him, but might just be voting for him because they know exactly what the opposition represents right now. Bernie Sanders, who was so far wacky left in 2016, is now kind of become the norm for the Democratic politicians. That doesn't mean he is the norm for the everyday person walking around as a Democrat. And I think it's our job to point that out to those people. So I'm going to sum up what Donald Trump, what President Trump needs from us. And some of you guys are going to agree with this, and some of you guys aren't. Yeah, I'm going to rub some people wrong, but I'm just telling you what I think, from my opinion, in talking to people from both sides of the aisle. He doesn't need us out there fighting for him. He's really strong, and he can fight his battles. But our fighting for him is going to cause the kind of fights that is going to only embolden and strengthen the people fighting against him, then we're losing in the long run. It's up to us to determine if it's our main goal to make everybody in this country like Donald Trump, or to make everybody in this country recognize that the true values, that the true ideas of the Constitution work. The ideas of limited government, the ideas of property rights, the ideas of less taxation, the ideas of less government infringement upon us. These ideas work. And my contention is, if we stop fighting Donald Trump's battle, but start fighting for the ideas, that there are so many opportunities to do this. Let him fight his fight. Support him. Back him. But you don't have to take every tweet or every statement he makes and figure out a way to win an argument about that statement. We're better off winning an argument for the ideas, because these ideas work every time when they're explained properly. When explained properly, freedom always wins. So the first step is you don't have to worry about fighting his fight for him. Instead, fight for these ideas. Look for everyday opportunities in conversation to point out how strong these ideas are. Now, I'm going to come back to these in a minute. But one of the other things we have to do, and sometimes I get a little cringy when I'm speaking with a Republican club, but if you really want to drain the swamp, are you going to wait for President Trump to drain the swamp? Can President Trump drain any swamp that's existing in Congress right now? No. Congress, I looked at this, I had my presentation in 2015, was called Fix DC Now, Ask Me How. And it was based on the simple notion that 8% of Congress has an approval rating. But in the primary season, 93% of all incumbents for both parties win their re-election bid. How can this happen? How can we be so unhappy with Congress, yet come November, we have the same bums on the ticket every time? So what are you going to do? Vote for someone you know is coming at you for bigger government and socialistic policies? Or hold your nose and vote for the same guy or girl that's in there now that hasn't been living up to your expectation? If you want to make a difference, get involved in the primaries on a local level, on a state level, and on a congressional, federal level to make that difference. Then come November, we actually have fresh blood that's in there that can possibly change out the swamp that's in Washington, D.C. Okay? The other thing that we've got to do, and this is, and I think that's a basic, and I got to tell you, this message is best received by the Tea Party. I tell this message to the general public at my table, and they all think, oh yeah, I vote every time. That's always their message. But about 1 out of every 5 people, maybe 22, 23% of the people vote in the primaries that vote in the general elections. But the people that are involved in Patriot meetings recognize the importance of a primary. So the people in this room, this might be the biggest Tea Party group, one of the biggest Tea Party groups in the country right now, I've got to tell you guys. So you guys, between the circle of people that you run with, you have one of the largest reaches of any political group in this country. I know that might seem kind of crazy, but it's really true. Sadly, the Tea Party that I helped start in Central Florida years ago has gone by the wayside. And when I'm looking and researching other Patriot groups to speak to, there's a lot of websites that are out there, and they're still parts, but they're not still active. Or you'll find a Tea Party group of 8 or 10 people, because as many of you guys may have known, a lot of the Tea Parties have been hijacked by outside groups. And they're not necessarily people with bad intentions. They might be right-to-life groups or Second Amendment groups or Republican groups. They didn't have bad intentions when they did it, but gradually the Tea Party meetings turned into things other than limited government and fiscal and financial responsibility, and getting government out of our lives. Whereas you guys still have something really special in this part of the country. So as the primary elections are coming up, if you've got the opportunity to affect and influence other people, I would encourage you to do so. Because almost every time during the primary season, there are people that eat, sleep, and breathe the Constitution that need your support. And it's up to us to find them and get behind them. The other way goes back to winning the war on ideas. And this one is really kind of near and dear to my heart. When my brand started out, when I started selling the t-shirts, I was in D.C. in 2010. Glenn Beck had a big thing called Restoring Honor. There are probably some of you guys that were even at it as close as you are to Washington, D.C. And there were tens, maybe even 100,000 people on the lawn of the Lincoln Memorial. And it was a really special time, and they didn't crack down on vendors. So I got there the afternoon before to kind of scout out the situation. I saw people walking around selling buttons, and I had t-shirts that said, it's we the people, not you the government. And I had t-shirts much like the one that I've got here with me today that said Proud American. And what I did was I scouted it out. They weren't cracking down on vendors, so I got a little bold, I started selling t-shirts. I went to not too far, about 4 blocks away, there was a drugstore. I bought a flashlight. I sold it overnight. And about 12:30 at night, there was a group of people, and they were having like this political conversation. They were talking about what was wrong with this and what was wrong with that, and what Obama represents and what the Democrats are all about today. And at the time, I kind of waited patiently, and when I started speaking, people started listening to what I was saying. And that's what kind of gave me the idea that some of these experiences might benefit later on, not just me, but hopefully our country. And my message to them was, it's really good that we're sitting here talking about this. But what we've got to do is figure out ways to go out and talk to other people. Not necessarily people that are so opposed to the way that you think and feel, but people that just aren't paying enough attention, to get them to open their eyes and recognize the difference between what a big government is and what a lesser government is that's more out of our way. So they listened. I couldn't believe it. By the time I was done, a couple other people walked by. I was at 18 or 20 people that were there listening to my message to you now, which is figure out how to go about having conversations with people to show them that these ideas work. And I just took a little note of some of the conversations I've had. Almost every one of these has been since I first ran into Clay and Judy back at the beginning of January. But at the Wanamaker Streetcar Festival, this is one of my favorite things to do. And I'll back up a little bit here. At Elizabethtown County Fair 2 summers ago, I was there. And I was funny, I was positioned right between a trailer that was selling apple dumplings for the Republican Party. Then there was a booth over here. And then there was a booth over here that was a Democrat booth. And I don't know if you know Elizabethtown, but it's a pretty conservative place. Well, after about 6 or 7 days, I went over to the Elizabethtown Fair Democratic Party. And I said, so let me ask you guys, have you heard any ideas or thoughts or anything that has got you to change your way of thinking, or at least question some of your way of thinking? And what they said to me was, no. We just had a whole bunch of people running by here yelling names at us, calling us names or saying nasty things to us. And that will never win an election. It will never get somebody to rethink their way of thinking. So I've gotten in the habit of going up to different Democrat booths when I'm on, because if you go to these festivals, almost anything larger than a couple hundred people is going to have a Democratic booth and a Republican club booth. So I'll go to the Democratic booth, and I did this in Wanamaker, Indiana. There's a woman I've seen there a couple of years worked in the Democrat booth, and we can have a conversation. I love it when people can actually hold the conversation. And I asked her, so how do you feel about President Trump being in charge of your health care? And she said, I got to tell you, it scares me to death. I can't stand that man. I don't like him. I don't trust him. And I don't like that he's in charge of my health care. That's a softball. I've never had a softball pitched to me. Well, then why would you give all that power to the federal government? You had this golden child writing a bill that you thought was going to be so wonderful to put all this power in the hands of the federal government. Didn't you think there might be a day that somebody running the government that you didn't like or that you didn't trust? That's why we're supposed to be stepping back from this. Another conversation I was able to have, this was in Mechanicsburg. I don't know if you are in Mechanicsburg. They have a big Jubilee Day festival that I do every year. In fact, last year fell on the same day as your meeting, and my daughter watched the booth so I could come here. But at the at the Mechanicsburg Festival, people were talking about open borders. Well, they saw my shirt. I forgot to bring it up there. We got a shirt that says Donald Trump, The Wall. Looks just like Pink Floyd, The Wall. It's back there. And I had that shirt, like, oh, the wall, that's horrible, we shouldn't have a wall, we should have open borders. So can you please tell me any other country in the world that has open borders? And they couldn't. You know, I'm not trying to convince them to be gung-ho for Donald Trump. I'm trying to show them that these ideas work. And at the same time, I was able to say, what's so wrong with having somebody in office that loves their country? Isn't it wonderful? People in Australia, they should try to make their country great. People in Canada should try to make their country great. I want everybody to make their country great. But I certainly want the person running this country to want this country to be great. And those are conversations that is very difficult for intelligent people to disagree with. I had somebody right out here at the Leesport Flea Market. You guys have all heard of this Trump derangement syndrome. And what it really is something we have to be careful of too. But it's making sure that anything he says or does or wants is something they're going to oppose. So I got asked a question by somebody. There was a couple, and the guy liked Donald Trump and his girlfriend did. And I knew I wasn't trying to draw a wedge, I wasn't trying to bring a fight up, but he said, I like that shirt. She really kind of doesn't. And I was like, well, I'm not saying we should be, fighting for him every step of the way, but when he does something right, I think we should acknowledge it. And she says, oh, I haven't seen anything he's done right. So don't you like paying less taxes? And then her brain, you can see her brain working, like, what was the comeback for that? I said, don't you like paying less taxes? And her response was, well, if we're going to pay for it now, we're going to pay for it later. It's like, no, that's not the way that it works. But just being able to get that point across and not try to defend or argue for a tweet that President Trump may have made or a comment that he may have made. I'm not discounting anything he says. I'm not backing off anything he says. I'm just pointing out that these ideas work. And if we're going to expect these ideas to be held forward and perpetuate long after he's out of office, it's up to us to start convincing people that these ideas work now. The last of these ideas ties directly in with what Sam had said earlier, and Rod had said earlier, which is about the census. And I'll take it a step further. I had somebody, this was a little bit back, this was last summer, they were still on the Electoral College rant. And this doesn't just go to the Electoral College because it also answers the exact same points that you guys were making about the census. But somebody was saying how horrible the Electoral College is, and she won this election fair and square, and I was able to point out to them, do you like having one person or a small group of people rule over everybody? No. In fact, that's what we get with Trump. He's a fascist. Well, so you don't like it when one person rules over a large group of people? No, that'd be terrible. Well, the whole idea of the Electoral College is that each of the states have a say-so. If you had 4 or 5 population centers that drove the entire country, you would end up having the politicians only pander to those areas. You'd have politicians only spend money on those areas. And then all of a sudden, all the power would be separated and held into one place. Well, that's why the point you guys were making about the census was so important. His wanting to count the citizens only means that the citizens count across the country will determine how many different seats in Congress will be represented by each of the different states. Don't you want that to be an accurate representation of our country? And when you're able to make points like that to people, instead of saying, he's not a racist, he's not a racist, he's not a racist, and you instead point out why these things work and why they matter, that helps his cause further along than trying to argue with somebody. And this is the part where I said it might get a little bit under some people's skin and some people might not look at this right. But I think that as conservatives and as constitutionalists, we did not do a good job of doing this when President Obama was in office. The people that were so gung-ho on arguing everything from birth certificates to martial law taking over to Muslim Brotherhood to college transcripts and all these things, whether you were right or whether you were wrong, you had a golden opportunity for 8 years to show how wrong socialism is. You had one bill after another being passed or at least proposed that offered a bigger government, that today we're trying to solve those problems. You had Obamacare, you had net neutrality, you had these financial bills that were coming out that just offered more and more and more regulation. But instead, we were so busy arguing over college transcripts and birth certificates that we had this golden example in front of us, and we weren't able to use that example. And I know it didn't work, because now not only do we get Bernie Sanders as the number 2 candidate, but that begot everything else that we're seeing now on the Democratic side. And I'm going to offer to you guys, if you can't point at those people standing up on the Democratic debate stage and be able to make the argument for less government and less power in the hands of the federal government, then you're probably not somebody that should be representing the Constitution and conservatives in general. Because this is a slam dunk when you look at what they're up there on that stage promising. And even just, I guess it was the other day, Kamala Harris started talking about fixing the healthcare system. How golden of an opportunity is that to point out that government creates a problem and the government has to step in and fix that problem, and when it's all said and done, we've all spent a whole lot of more money and gotten a whole lot less. Okay? I met a cardiologist who was trying to argue for Obamacare, and he was telling me that because of Obamacare, he's now able to see patients that he couldn't see before. Why couldn't he see those patients before? Because there were so many government regulations and oppositions that have gotten in the way of everything in the world that he can't even pick and choose who he's going to see anymore. Can you imagine a doctor seeing somebody off the books? Or seeing somebody who didn't have insurance or didn't have money? That didn't come from a free society. That came from government rules and regulations. But once again, we're going to look at government to fix this problem. So again, just to recap, our goal, our job, our mission is to argue that the ideas set forth to us by the Founding Fathers work. The idea that you are as free as you want to be, as long as you don't step on other people's freedom, works. The idea that you should keep what you earn works. The idea that your property is your property works. All of these things work. We have to get less caught up in fighting and arguing about and for the people, and do a little more constructive conversing about these ideas. Okay? I don't normally do this. I just want to take a quick second and mention a couple things because we're getting ready to hit this milestone. So I started this actually at a tax day tea party, the beginning of 2010. And you know, I had a couple of really good years where I found people that decided to buy from me wholesale. They tried to sell the shirts, but it's such a tight margin using American-made shirts that it hasn't always worked. I've had to take a couple steps back. I now teach school for part of the year. I'm only able to sell on weekends or at festivals at the beginning of the summer, so I get to miss the primo season. But the bottom line is, there's a gentleman here earlier who bought, actually it's funny because he's the one who told me about you guys. I met you in, your name again, I'm so bad with names. Chuck. I met Mr. Gardner in LaBella, Florida, shortly after I started this brand. And he said, you really should come up and meet the Berks County Patriots. We were at the Swamp Cabbage Festival in LaBella, Florida. And he and his wife told me about your group, and then I found Judy, and I've been fortunate in the last few years to come out here and speak with the group. But between then and now, he bought her 99,775th American-made t-shirt. And we're getting really close to having sold 100,000 t-shirts. And to me, nobody's doing anything American-made, and I probably cost myself a lot by switching to American-made early, because I'm fighting against people that are buying shirts at about a third of the cost of mine. But I get to come back to place year after year and see people who love wearing their shirts because the quality on them is so good. And since the shirts last for years, we don't just transfer the design on, we do it the right way with the screen print. Anyhow, I've got 3 new designs with me today. One is, it looks a little bit like Pink Floyd, The Wall, except it says Donald Trump, The Wall. And I've got it in a men's t-shirt or a men's v-neck. I would say it's an original design, but I have a little hope from Roger Waters and David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. They don't know it though. But nobody ever noticed anything I do, so I'm able to fly under the radar with that one. I've also got another new design that says socialism. You'll see it there. It's got the big red circle around it with a line drawn through it. So that's like the no socialism shirt. And then I was at a flea market in Bartow, Florida a couple weeks ago, Jake's Flea Market, great flea market if you guys have never been. And a customer said, you know, you should put on a shirt. And I love hearing it. I must have heard this 100 times in my life. You know, you should put on a shirt. You break into my house, and the first round's on me. So, I mean, that's it. So, somebody already bought one of those tonight. I've got that shirt with me. That gentleman right back there is the first person in America to own that shirt. So, yeah, I've got those 3 shirts as well as 4 or 5 other designs. They're all American-made. The T-shirts are 17 apiece. The V-necks are 19. I didn't have a chance. We're set up at the Lycoming Fair, like I said. I didn't have a chance to make more copies of our brochure. I haven't got anything with my info on it except that our company is My Liberty Threads. So our website is mylibertythreads.com. And I've got a wall that I've been having people sign their name since we got to about 99,200 shirts, and we're getting close to filling the wall. So if you buy a shirt, I'll ask you to write your name next to the corresponding number of shirts you bought. Even if you don't buy anything, just come by and take a look at the wall. I'm proud to report that we're in the process of building a wall. When it's done, right now, it's about 4 feet tall and about 6 feet wide. When we're done, it'll be 6 feet tall and 7.5 feet wide, full of great Americans that have helped me get that 100,000 mark. The idea is that nobody else is selling anything American-made, so if somebody's going to sell 100,000 of anything, they have to try to bring a little attention to themselves. And that's mostly what I've got for you. I hope, come next summer, you guys will have an opportunity, hopefully have some more experience to share with you. I can't thank you enough for listening to what I have to say. Hopefully this will be helpful. You'll be able to use some of these ideas. Okay? Thanks again, guys.
Scott, thank you so much. You certainly lived up to your billing. We like having you here every year. Fantastic. Charlie, thank you very much for hooking Scott up with us. Really appreciate it. Folks, up next is Clay Breece. Many of you know Clay. Clay will touch on several issues that are near and dear to our hearts. Clay is a Boyertown School Board Director, Marketing Manager for 30 years, and has 2 weekly radio shows. You want to listen to them, they're fantastic. One is The Point, which is 60 minutes on Saturday, 7 a.m. and Monday at 8 p.m. Also, The Watchman, 30 minutes on Saturday and Sunday at 4 p.m. Clay is married to his beautiful, lovely wife, Thea, 28 years. Also, he is chairman of the Berks County Patriots. I'm sorry about that. Clay is chairman of the Berks County Republican Committee. Folks, let's all welcome Clay Breece. You can have my job if you like.
Okay, just get this thing fixed here. Hands free. Let's hold this.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to be a little partisan because I am a 275 pounds of pure Republican. So I tell you. Oh, by the way, happy no collusion, happy no obstruction, everybody here. Okay. I would tell you the bottom line is, and I want to comment a little bit on what we've been hearing a lot about, the citizenship question. What's interesting about this, and I've heard this said tonight, but the party of Lenin, Democrats, are terrified of this because they know it will mean less seats in California. They know that, you see. And so we have to understand this is a philosophical, ideological fight that we're in for our country, for our traditions and our constructs. The left is trying to fundamentally change this country. And we don't ever want to fundamentally change anything unless we don't like it. So make no mistake about it, they are truly trying to do this. And they are acting with the propaganda, the fake news. They are acting along with them, lockstep with them, okay? They are trying their best to dupe the American public. Don't buy into it. And the fact is that Trump's tweets, I support the president. First off, there's all kinds of different Republicans, okay? You've got the Republicans like me who believe Trump should be on Mount Rushmore. Then you've got others, okay, that think that when they like Trump, they just don't like his tweets. Well, let me help you folks understand something. It's his tweets that are fighting these people. It's his comments that are fighting these people. And we have to stand and we have to fight. And he's out there. He's our Gideon with a sword. He is our crusader and our chief. And we have to support our president. Make no mistake about it. I'll tell you, I've never seen ever in my life something like this. This man eats fried chicken and cheeseburgers, and he's got the energy of the Energizer Bunny. I've never seen anything like it. This is how you know he's God touched, you see. This is how I know as a Christian that this man is God touched. So we have to understand this. But I want to talk a little bit about what the party of Lenin is trying to ramrod down our throats. And I want us to understand, too, first off, they want to usher in socialism. That's what they want. They want to usher this into this country. And Trump's fighting them on this. And we've got people in the Republican Party that are still playing footsie with these socialists. And this is the stuff that this is stuff that I show off on my radio show constantly. We talk about this. But what we don't hear a lot of, and we just don't hear a lot of, is the actual cost. The actual cost of this. And what is all of this going to cost? See, we don't hear much from the Council of Economic Advisors, and we should hear more from them. But I've done some research on what will the party of Lenin, all-you-can-eat buffet of free giveaways cost this country. Okay? Their goal is to break this country and to bring us to socialism. That's their goal. They know that what they're offering is not good for us. They know what they're offering isn't going to help the middle class. They know this. They emphatically know this, but they don't care. They're going to lie to the public through the media over and over and over. And they're going to try to dupe the American public into buying into their lies and deception. This is, again, a fight. And we all need to do our part communicating. The Berks County Republican Committee is doubled in size. Okay, and we hope to more than that, triple in size in the next 6 or 7 months. We've got plans to communicate and reach out to even more people. Our social media is up almost 800%. Okay, People are connecting with our message. Why? Because we speak to the middle class. I had a reporter from the Reading Eagle ask me, he said, are you concerned about these parties like Indivisible Berks? Well, obviously the dark money that comes in and funds them, the dark money that's going to give them the capacity to have a full-time staffer on, okay, does concern me. But trust me, folks, their message doesn't concern me. Their message doesn't connect with anybody, and they know it. Our message does, and we just need to talk to people. Our job is to help voters, inform voters. This all-you-can-eat buffet of free giveaways costs. Well, the minimum wage cost, you hear this talked about all the time, the living wage, minimum wage. Folks, it isn't a living wage. Minimum wage is poverty. Okay? When they talk about going to $15 an hour, they're talking about taking someone, okay, who's on poverty level 5 and bringing them up to poverty level 4. When they talk about, well, let's do the universal basic income. That's a fan favorite of the party of Lenin lately. The universal basic income is going to give $10,000 a year to every family out, every person out there. Okay, well, that's wonderful, right? I had a conversation with a Party of Lenin activist up in Albany Township on election day, and he and I were chatting. He's an attorney, he's a civil rights attorney. This was a gem of an activist, okay? And we were chatting back and forth about it, and I said, how is the universal basic income going to help the middle class? I want you to tell me how it's going to help the middle class. Well, I mean, we start the middle class. Hey, thank you for the answer to the question I didn't ask. I'm asking you what your proposals, your presidential candidates are proposing are going to help the middle class. Folks, it isn't going to help the middle class. Let me explain what I mean. First off, the Party of Lenin giveaway program of the universal basic income will cost $4 trillion. Do you know what the size of our tax, what we're bringing in now to fund this government is? 3.75 trillion or so. We currently spend about 4.4 trillion. So we're going to double our size of government just like that to give people $10,000 a year. So I said to him, I said, how is that going to help? He goes, well, it takes somebody from 17,000 to 27,000. I said, okay. Poverty level 4 to poverty level 2. Okay? But to do that, you're going to have to double taxes on people. So you're going to take someone who's scraping by, living week to week, who's on prosperity level, say, 1, and they're going to take that person down to poverty level 2, or poverty level 1. So what they've done is they've increased the level of people in poverty, and they've decreased the size of the middle class. That's their goal. Because the middle class is the biggest enemy to socialism in this world. It's this country that started the middle class, it's this country that perpetuates the middle class, and it's this country that is the beacon of light and preventing socialism from spreading to the farthest and deepest and darkest regions of this planet. And they know it. And that's why they're so vitriolic against our president. And that's why I can't get enough of him on TV watching him. And that's why I just love this guy and think he needs to be on Mount Rushmore. We are witnessing history, folks. We're witnessing a fight in historic proportions. This is what this is about. Make no mistake about it. So the Party of Lenin wants to give us universal basic income so they can increase welfare. They can increase people in poverty. Brings more people to government and makes them more dependent on the government programs. That's their goal. Well, what about universal basic health care? Or what I would say, eliminating private health care. Well, that's a fan favorite of the Party of Lenin. That'll cost $3.5 trillion a year. So let's just double that up again. The cost of living. Let's just take taxes up even more. What about the Green New Deal? Well, that's something that they didn't intend on coming out. But you see, the Green New Deal perpetuates a lie that we see oftentimes, which is the green, I should say, the climate change, the global warming, extreme weather. They're changing the name of it because they're losing the argument. Let me help you folks, okay? The glaciers are coming back to Greenland, okay? On March 22nd, we celebrate, and we will celebrate, I will celebrate on March 22nd, every March 22nd, happy no collusion, happy no destruction. 2 days after that, we'll celebrate happy no climate change. NASA just discovered the glaciers are coming back to Greenland. They don't want to talk about that, you see. They don't want to talk about the fact that we've had global warming, climate change, and rises and decreases or whatever, fluctuations in climate since the Roman days. And we weren't causing that with fossil fuels back when Rome ruled the world. But we had global warming back then. They can't explain that Saturn and Mars and the other planets in our solar system are in fact warming up. Folks, it's the sun. You see, we're going to help them understand. We're going to be grounded in truth, and we're going to help them understand that it's the sun that is warming these planets, not man-made problems, okay? They want to blame it on man so they can raise the cost of energy in this country. The raising the cost of energy in this country will again suppress the middle class, cost us jobs, and cost everybody in this room. When you buy anything from a bottle of water to a gallon of gas, to a washer and dryer, to a refrigerator, or to a dozen eggs, it's going to cost you more. It's going to cost you more. How else can they suffocate you? And that's what their plan is. And that will cost $9 trillion per year. And again, election vouchers, this is a gimme. This was wonderful. They brought up election vouchers. They want $1 trillion a year for election vouchers. They want to give every American money to give back to political campaigns. Isn't that a gem? Boy, that's going to help the middle class folks. Not. Okay? This is what they're planning. Free college for all. Let's give the free college to everybody. That's another $1 trillion a year. Reparations. I love this one. Reparations. How are they going to go about this? Do DNA tests on everybody? Is that their plan? What is their plan for this? What about people that weren't in this country, the families, their ancestors weren't here back in the 1700s? Do they have to pay? How does this work? Logistically, how can they figure this out? Folks, they're not trying to. They're trying to motivate a base. And what's interesting is they're using intersectionality. And I have this is something that bothers me immensely because they talk about the future of this country being intersectional. Intersectionality is everyone fighting everyone, with a white male as the ultimate of all oppressors. And then you've got the white female right behind there, and then you've got all the other demographic groups right down the line. Everyone's oppressing everyone. And we're either all oppressors or we're being oppressed. At some point, we're being oppressed by someone. Now, the only way to get out of being an oppressor is to be an ally of the oppressed. Folks, this is insanity. This is the fifth dimension. They want to impose this fifth dimension. I'm going to give you a quick little portal of what intersectionality is. I'm not a big fan of Chelsea Clinton or the Clintons, but Chelsea Clinton was dealt a very low blow by these intersectional nuts, okay? We had the shooting in New Zealand that was a catastrophe, where they blew up and they were shooting a bunch of Muslims in a mosque out there in New Zealand. Well, they had a vigil in New York University. And Chelsea Clinton, I mean, like any good socialist, Marxist, they want to do a vigil whenever guns are used in some aspect, because they want to say, okay, well, we have to have a vigil and we have to highlight this and bring the attention to the world. So they had their little vigil, and here comes Chelsea Clinton to the vigil. And one of the organizers looked at her and said, it's because of you. It's because of what you said. Well, what did Chelsea Clinton say? Chelsea Clinton said, we don't need anti-Semitism in our ranks. We can't have this anti-Semitism talk that's coming from the squad. You hear a lot about the squad lately. Okay? Well, they're spewing anti-Semitic hatred, and she called them out. Well, then the shooting takes place, and they're blaming her. They blame her for causing the shooting. Now, folks, that is the insanity nightmare on Elm Street they want to give us. When you have free speech and you make a comment on something like that, you can be blamed for something outside of your realm of control. That is scary. This could go from, well, it could go from just you being charged a racist to maybe perhaps we can get some activist judges in place and we get some more activists and pretending to be lawmakers in Congress, but they're really activists, to get them to pass some crazy laws that would be supported by these activist judges, and then they could maybe sue you for talking out of line, or maybe worse yet, put you in jail. This is what intersectionality will lead to. Okay, we need to stop looking to be perpetually offended. We need to be strong and grounded in our faith and who we are, and not be offended so easily. Okay, this is what a lot of these problems are. Folks, I mean, I will tell you, if they want to remove Trump's tax cuts, you hear a lot of this, let's repeal Trump's tax cuts. Okay? If they want to repeal Trump's tax cuts, it will cost a family of four $73,000 per year. I'm sorry, a family of four earning $73,000 a year. It'll cost them $2,300 in tax cuts. A single mom earning $41,000, she's at prosperity level 1 or maybe 2. With one child, she's going to lose $1,300 a year. That'll bring her back down to prosperity level 1 or poverty level 1. You see, they want people needing government handouts. That's what this is all about. But all this all-you-can-eat buffet that they have, folks, this will cost the American taxpayer $60,000 per year, per person. Does anybody in this room can afford that? You see, this is what they want to ram down our throats. If we don't understand this is a philosophical fight, we're going to miss it, folks, and history's going to pass us by. We need to understand this, because they want to ruin this country. They want to inflate the size of government to where it eclipses our GDP. And then they can bring in socialism. They're going to give us solutions for the problems they created in the first place. Is that not insanity? Folks, I would submit to everybody, I think it's important that we understand that they offer nothing. Even the Equality Act is an assault on Christianity. The Equality Act has nothing to do about equality, folks. It has everything to do with stuffing free speech and infringing on the rights of parents, religious rights, and free speech. It's going to change existing norms in this country. It's going to adversely affect the unborn, healthcare, charitable services, school academics, athletics, school athletics, as well as personal privacy. Okay? We will lose faith-based foster care and adoption agencies that honor children's rights to parents. The bill will act as an abortion mandate by calling abortion women's health care. It'll make it law. It'll call it women's health care. Folks, abortion is not health care. It's abortion. Women's health care, you would think you're going to get sonograms and things, mammograms, okay? You go to Planned Parenthood, they don't do that. They just do abortions. Now, the good news on Planned Parenthood is they are losing clinics left and right. They're losing members left and right. And I got to tell you, folks, it's a wonderful thing. There's one abortion clinic in the state of Missouri. The whole state of Missouri is one clinic. And I believe they fought like crazy, but they got their permits to renew another year. They're not having abortions, folks. Abortions are on the decline because people are waking up. We're winning that fight. My wife and I had neighbors when we lived in Florida years ago, and we were chatting about this because we were then living in Florida. Jeb Bush was running for governor against walk-in Lawton Democrat Childs. And I remember we were talking to a neighbor about abortion, and I says, you don't understand, your teenage daughter can get an abortion and you don't even know about it. He said, that's a lie. You're lying to me. I says, I'm telling you the truth. Who's lying to you is the media. Who's lying to you is walk-in Lawton. Because I'm telling you, your child can get taken out of school for an abortion and you don't even know about it in the state of Florida. That's why I'm voting for Jeb Bush. And my wife and I support Bush at the time, back in '94. I would submit to you folks, this is a fight, and I would hope that everybody understands this. We need to stand strong and look to see how we can contribute. Each of us can contribute. And thank God every day for this country. And thank God every day for our getting in with a sword. And really pray for them and just be a part of what's going on. This is a great time to be a Republican. It really is. It really is. It really is. Because I would tell you folks, and again, I'm partisan because I am a Republican. But I can't imagine anybody being a Democrat right now when this party wouldn't elect John F. Kennedy to school board. You understand? I can't imagine anyone being a Democrat when their own party wouldn't elect John F. Kennedy to anything. He just doesn't represent them. We represent the values of the middle class. Our party does. And we have a great message, and we will win this election handily. Okay? I would tell you, I've been looking at polls, and they always come up with the fake polls, but the real polls, look at RasmussenReports.com. RasmussenReports.com is the most accurate polling that I've seen anywhere. Okay? And it has Trump at about 50% favorables right now, which is about 5% higher than Barack Hussein Obama was at this point before he was up for his re-election. And what's really interesting on something else I want folks to understand is that we as a country, as a Republican Party, we nominated a war hero in 1996, Bob Dole, and he got beat. And we nominated another Bush in 2000 and barely won by a few hundred votes in Florida. Then we nominated another war hero in 2008 and got beat again. And then we said, well, we gotta get somebody who can win an election. So why don't we get Mr. Clean? Let's hire Ward Cleaver. So we brought in Ward Cleaver, Mitt Romney, and he got beat. Okay? Then we saw Trump, and I'll tell you, my wife and I were talking, I'd just gotten involved in the Republican committee at that point. I've been a Republican, but I got involved in the Republican committee, and I saw Trump coming down that escalator and said, that's the guy that's going to win this election for the Republicans. And I remember going to the committee and telling the Republicans, they all looked at me like I had lobsters coming out of my ears. We're going to win again because this truly is the fighter. Nobody in this country could have done what Trump is doing right now and stand up to the armies of evil. This is in Ephesians 6 talks a lot about the battle, the spiritual battle that goes on. My wife and I have been watching this for years, listening to Focus on the Family Christian radio when we lived in Florida, great Christian radio at the time. A lot of good stuff that we would listen to, and you just tune into what's happening, and you just get the real skinny. This is before we had a lot of the conservative real news that we see today. But CNN was out there, and they started this political correct nonsense, which again was the introduction of intersectionality. Anytime you've got people like we see now, the squad claiming racism, folks, it's not racism to tell someone that you don't like this country. Leave it. That's what he's telling me. I mean, look, you sound like me. I'm hearing the words coming out of your mouth, you don't like this country. So, I'm saying if you don't like it, and you're disrespecting your seat, you need to just leave. And if you want, you go to the countries that you can see and maybe help them fix their problems, come back and tell us how you did it. The bottom line is they left really bad countries to come here because we are the greatest country God ever gave man. We are. And we're going to continue to be that people. And I do believe God's got his hand on this election. I mean, I see it, and I think that there's no way my wife and I would have ever elected Donald Trump unless the time came right. And it did. Which we knew there was nothing. Hillary Clinton, I mean, she was not an option. She was not an option. Not for me, not for this Republican. I'll tell you what, my two sisters voted for her, and my brother said, you voted for the Dragon Lady. I can't believe you voted for the Dragon Lady. Folks, I think it's time we just stand up and be counted. But I do appreciate everybody listening, and I just want you to encourage you to just be a good cheer. Don't believe the suppression polls. Don't believe the fake news that's out there saying that Trump's doing the wrong and what he's doing. And Trump is exposing these people, and he's showing us how to fight these people. Okay, you fight them through ideas, and you fight them through talking and communicating. As we heard one of our speakers say tonight, you got to make the argument, but you got to make it right. You know, gee, well, Trump's not a racist. No, I think they're racist for calling him a racist. You see, and I would say, look, are you a racist for calling me a racist? You see, the biggest fear we have, the biggest fear we all have, is being called something as crazy wrong as being a racist. They know that, so they play on that. They play on that fear. Let's not fall victim to that. By the way, we do have a person running. What's the person you're running for? What's the place in Shillington? Councilmember Shillington. He's running. We want to make sure we recognize him. Please, stand up and just say hi to folks.
Hi, my name's Berks. I'm running for council in Shillington Borough. Thank you.
Okay. We've got some great people running. We've got some new blood coming into this organization, into our party. But folks, make no mistake about it. I mean, I would submit that what's going on in California, what's going on in the news that we see, I mean, California truly is the land of the crazies, and I think it's amazing that they're showing everyone what to run from with regard to radical leftism. I call it Marxism, because that's what it is. You know, I saw a piece that said, you've got your communists and you've got your socialists. Well, the socialists are polite communists. The fact is, they're all America haters. Every one of them hate this country. And I've never seen such vitriol against this country and against our traditions. We've all been thinking what Trump's saying and saying, my goodness, I'm happy that he's safe. We've all been thinking, my goodness, this is here we are. We have to just be honest with ourselves and say, my goodness, I am a patriot. I don't like seeing someone trash our flag. I don't like seeing some nitwits run down to Colorado to an ICE headquarters and take down those flags and put up their own flags. That is, and then to have the newspaper turn around and say, don't use our picture to find out who put those people, who put their flags up. The newspaper is resisting law enforcement before in our lifetime. Are we not in a battle for this civilization that we live in? If we don't know this is an ideological, philosophical war now, I don't know when we're going to know it. We see it all around us. We see people running for president escorting illegals over the border. We see this with our eyes and we're amazed. And we have these newscasters, these fake newscasters, out there saying that Trump is going to lose the election because he's out there calling the squad what they are. And they're not saying anything about the Democrats' open border policies and how that's going to hurt them. They're talking about how Trump's going to hurt because he keeps bringing attention, negative attention to the Republican Party, but they're not saying anything about the negative, crazy policies that the Democrats are trying to propose and what they are doing in California. You see, folks, what's going to hurt the Democrats is what we're talking about. What's going to help the Republicans is what we're talking about. And if we stop listening to the people that don't want us to win anyway, tell us how to win, I think we'll start really winning. You see, they don't want us to win. They want us to lose badly. But the fact is we're going to win because we're not listening to them anymore. We're not listening to them tell us how to win elections, who to nominate, and how to run these campaigns. Well, anyway, folks, I appreciate you all coming out. We hope to see you. We can come to our picnic. You're going to want to RSVP to well, you can RSVP to me, and I'll just forward it off, which is c.breece516@gmail.com. c.breece516@gmail.com. I will forward your RSVP to the necessary people so we get the head count. We're having our picnic. It's going to be, and we'll give you the address. We'll give you the address of that with the RSVP. But it's going to be over there in Robeson Township. And it's a great pavilion. It's a great time. And it's free. You can just come in and enjoy the time with us and convince with people who love this country as much as you. Yes, sir.
What's the day of the picnic?
August the 11th, Sunday, August the 11th. It's a Sunday afternoon. It starts around 1 or so. People go to church, they get home, they can change and sit on down. It's a nice pavilion. Yeah. And you can bring a dish to share if you like. I think, but when you RSVP to me, again, it's c.breece, that's B-R-E-E-C-E, c.breece516@gmail.com. You can send me a note saying you want to come, and I will forward that note to folks. Or you can just go to berksgop.com, and you can click on the link below to contact me from there as well. You can contact me from the berksgop.com website. Anyway, thank you all for being here, for letting me come and speak. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Rod. Thank you all, and appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Folks, I always love to hear Clay. He's very passionate, very knowledgeable, and really hits it out of the ballpark. You know, Clay mentioned climate change. Do you folks remember it used to be called global warming? It was called global warming before it morphed into climate change. Now, why was that? Well, folks, a 14-year period, from I think it was 1998 to 2012, the CO2s increased, but the Earth's temperature did not. and they could not explain it. Still cannot explain it. So obviously they could not call it global warming. So they had to change the name to keep their agenda going, so it's called climate change. One other thing. I'm going to tell you something that probably very few of you have heard. CO2s. You know these bad things out there? Well, I'm going to tell you that the increase in CO2s not only is not harmful, but they are beneficial to mankind. Let me repeat that. These bad CO2s, an increase in CO2s is not only not harmful, but beneficial to mankind. We'll have more on this at a later time. Thank you. We're not over yet. Linda, we're a lucky winner here somewhere. Got the raffle? While Linda's getting that ready, I want to read something. Some of us here last month spoke to Rod. Let's see, the gentleman spoke to Rod at the end of last month's meeting, and Rod gave him his Patriot card. They had changed information, but Rod's computer ate his email. Is that person here tonight that spoke to Rod at the end of last meeting? Are you here? Going once? Going twice? Did anybody speak to Rod at the end of last meeting? Okay. Sorry, Rod, we tried. Okay, Linda. Okay. Here. Linda.
Okay, and the lucky winner is going to walk home tonight with $90. That's pretty nice. Okay, 863-460. Check your tickets, come on. 863-460. Now somebody has to have it. Come on.
Over here.
Okay. Well, I can't come over there to my cord won't let me. I have to come up here.
Okay, Linda, thank you. A couple more things before we break up. I just want to give you Clay Breece, is chairman of the Berks County GOP, his email address again, cbreece, B-R-E-E-C-E, 516@gmail.com. Should you need to call him, it's 484-300-0344. Also, we still have gun raffle tickets in the back. Next month, we're going to have Debbie Alavera from the Berks County Election Center will be here with the new voting machines. I know all of you love these machines, so you're going to get a chance to operate them. Rod Miller will also be speaking, and we have a few other people as well. I didn't get a chance to put them on the flyer here. Linda's going to close our meeting in prayer. Yes. Sally? Where? Put what on?
Number and email.
Will do. Linda, can you do that? Linda, close in prayer, please.
Okay, bow your heads. You don't have to stand up. It's okay. Lord, bless us and keep us till we meet up again. Watch over all of us on our way home. Keep us all safe, happy, healthy. Till next month, we hope to see you all then. Amen.
Safe trip home, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. Next month, bring a friend if you would. Thanks again.